More than 18 people have been reportedly killed since the violent protests and post-elections erupted in Mozambique last month. Yesterday, protesters continued to clash with police in what was dubbed a Freedom Day march across the country. Now, this is after the opposition party's leader, Venancio Mondlane, disputed the October election results, which saw Frelimo, the ruling party that has been in government since 1975, announced as the winner with over 70% of the votes. Meanwhile, the Lebombo border post still remains closed after protesters torched trucks and destroyed infrastructure on the Mozambican side. To give us a closer perspective of the dire situation in Mozambique, we are joined by Egidio Vaz Raposo, who is a media analyst in Mozambique. Egidio, a very good morning to you. Perhaps you want to give us an update from what has happened overnight. I mean, you're there. The march happened yesterday, but I'm sort of keen, as well as South Africans, to hear how things are looking.
Well, good morning, and thank you very much for having me. Yesterday was actually a distraction day. Now, this morning, the media, local media, is trying to make a sort of an assessment of what has been the day before, and definitely what we have is a picture of a total destruction. And this time around, from the city center to the outskirts, the devastation did not spare anything. From shopping centers, malls, to private properties, cars destructed, touched, houses, even the roads in Maputo and Matola specifically, and a little bit in the country's other 10 cities. Yes, that's something that I can tell. Sadly, the demonstrators did face well-prepared police and defense forces. If I say well-prepared, is unlike in the other demonstrations since October 10. This time round, the Mozambican defense forces, also the army, was also on the street, tried to contain people's anger, and the police also was there, and the riot police from time to time tried to act more or less proportionally to disperse the demonstrators. Let me just put into context what actually yesterday's demonstrations aimed at. According to its organizer, who is Venancio Mondlane, the second most elected presidential candidate, yesterday was Venancio Mondlane, whose actual whereabouts are unknown, but definitely he is out of Mozambique. He intended to oust the current Nyusi government and to replace it by what he calls the popular government, where he would lead it for a transitional period until everything is sort, according to him, is set for a fresh elections. So, in other words, it was a coup d'etat proposal, and that's why, and this way, this time, the Mozambican army was involved. But let me put a very good note here about Mozambique's army intervention, because they did not use any sort of firearms other than just containing and dialoguing with people. But the death toll actually is between 20 and 30, but this is from October 10 up to now. Yesterday specifically, people are talking about 2 deaths and many injured. So these deaths result from from the tear gas bullets, actually. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, good. Sorry, apologies there. I'm not too sure what happened there just in terms of the sound. Egidio, we talk about a coup that's happening, but the reality is if you look at what's actually happening, a lot of people are actually talking to the fact that this is more of a people's revolution. And this is what people want to see, is that the government is held accountable, where they're saying they're marching against poverty, exclusion, violence, and the arrogance of a ruling party, where they are claiming that these elections were absolutely rigged. What is the way forward? Because we even know that Frelimo family have been taken out of there. The leaders have been taken out of Maputo, and they're safely in hiding. So perhaps you can give us an update on what really is the sense of Mozambicans? What are you feeling at this point?
Yes, we have two issues here. Yes, we have the post-electoral problems resulting from some irregularities. But the problem is that here, people should separate the political process from the social unrest. So if we may be candid here, maybe yesterday was the mix of both, where people marched against all these problems, social and economic problems, plus what triggered that social unrest is the political process. But the political process here is not over yet. At this juncture, for example, the Constitutional Council is yet to rule on different queries and claims submitted by political parties, and only after it validates or not the election results is when we can say that the political process is closed. So if we mix these two problems, we can find here that Venancio Mondlane did manage to gather all these sentiments of frustration and put people on the streets to march against that. So the problem here is that, and you understand me, that when people march against, for example, specific issues, we and the country has a sense of that. But when the objective is clear to overthrow an instituted government, then we have a problem here. Specifically because the leader is one of the candidates. So if you want me to validate what you are proposing, that people are marching against hunger, unaccountability, and corruption, and kidnapping, and all these things, I can validate you. But then it's very difficult to me to validate a coup d'etat, for example.
Yeah.
So that's where things are a bit tricky. If you want me to say, to propose you a way forward, definitely, President Nyusi, the current president, has already made it public that he's available for dialogue, where all political parties gather and discuss the way forward. But please, as he said, this should follow due process.
Yeah.
And
do you think
other
it's
political parties as well.
Do you think it's too late, though, for dialogue at a point like this, where we see where the country is at? To have the leaders sit and have a dialogue right now. I mean, this has been building up for quite some time, as you say. Lives were already being lost since October. At this point, are we beyond any form of dialogue solution?
To your information, the dialogue is actually underway. But one thing that is a bit particular and peculiar from President Nyusi is that he does not make it public or does not publicize it. But I can tell you right away from now that President Nyusi has met already Osuf Momade, who's current opposition leader, as well as Podemo's leader, Mr. Albino Forquilla, for example. So, and has already met others. So the problem is that, is it public or not? These are informal approaches, as well as there are other initiatives here, making corridors. the problem with Venancio Mondlane is that he's abroad. So he communicates with his masses and with the support bases via Facebook Live. So here is the problem with him specifically. But the dialogue itself is underway. But mind this, imagine, and this is the problem that now, that imagine that from this dialogue, for example, people, political parties and the political leaders agree on something specific. For example, what would the Constitutional Council's role be like?
Yeah, indeed. What about a
government? You understand me? Here's the problem.
What I hear
the dialogue to end, but the dialogue to end violence is already there underway.
Yeah.
If you see any channel, whether radio or TV, people are condemning the violence.
Yeah.
Peaceful demonstration is welcome and is lawful, but then riots is unlawful because it only distracts and paralyzes the country and the economy.
Let me ask you, they want to, the talk of a government of national unity, is that a possibility? Because, I mean, these are things that we're living through here in South Africa as well. You say talks are happening, the calls for a government of national unity. Is there a possibility of that?
Well, it might be, but, you know, there should be a leader. For example, in South African case, you had ANC not reaching the 50+1 threshold, and it led a government national unity. So how do you envisage, how do you entertain an idea of government of national unity? Who would lead it now? Because the results are not yet made public, are yet to be known. So this is the problem. So otherwise, and you need to understand President Nyusi's stance here. He's only 30 months away from leaving the office to retire. It would look like actually a coup d'etat led by himself. Because if it is to become, if Mozambicans are to form a government of national unity, definitely it should be led by President Nyusi, because he's the current one.
One more question before I let you go. We've got literally a minute here. 2 years ago, I mean, I visited Cabo Delgado and I saw the situation in the north, in Cabo Delgado, where, you know, we talk about the Islamist insurgents there. Now, what I am hearing is that their soldiers have been moved from there to go into Maputo. What's going to happen in Cabo Delgado? Because that is an exceptionally volatile situation as well. Is there enough protection for Mozambicans?
This is total lie. This is total lie. This time, there is not even a single soldier that has been moved from Cabo Delgado down to Maputo to take care of these riots. Definitely not.
Okay.
Well, just to put the numbers here, Venancio Mondlane was expecting 4 million people on the streets. What I can tell you is that not even 5 million did show up on the streets. This is the first thing. The second thing is that there were soldiers that were deployed to the streets this time around, were not to fight and not to shoot to the people. So there were enough in enough number to do their job, which was to contain the progress to the institutions like presidency, like Constitutional Council, like National Electoral Commission. So these were the targets of these riots. So the armed forces mandate was to make sure that these riots did not progress towards those specific and protected sites by law, actually.
All right. Okay. I have to leave it there. Egidio, I know that we've got so much more to talk about, but we'll stay in touch. Egidio Vaz Raposo is a Mozambican media analyst. He's been giving us an update from what is happening inside the country. This, of course, is all in response to these post-election protests that erupted in Mozambique. They've been going on since last night, but they are just getting more and more violent as the days pass by.